Hello and welcome to Panama City. We're staying here in the old town. Nice Airbnb. This area of the old town is tiny but packed with colonial buildings. It's actually a World Heritage Site, and in the last 20 years or so it's gone through a massive amount of regeneration. The President works out of this building quite often, which means that there's a large police presence around here. We're on a peninsula here, so you can see across the bay to the financial district. This is really a tourist area now, and locals don't really live here. It's full of Airbnbs, hotels, restaurants, souvenir shops. See the main cathedral over there? There's a few North African restaurants around here, so we've come to this one for lunch today. We've got falafels, hummus and salad. And it's gone for a shakshuka type dish. We've come to the Panama Canal Visitor Centre this morning. And we're up on this viewing platform watching the ships go by. This is a cruise ship, but of course most of them are ships carrying goods. There's also an IMAX cinema here with a film about the canal, and it's narrated by Morgan Freeman. So I thought I would let him do the voiceover whilst we watch one of these ships going through the canal.
In stair-step fashion, 3 sets of locks at either end of the canal raise and lower ships in 2 lanes. About 40 a day pass through, then sail across what came to be called Gatun Lake. The ship channel through the lake follows the ancient riverbed of the Chagres. On the other side, the process works in reverse, dropping ships back down through 3 locks. Ships sail through under their own power, but steering is another matter. The steel cables are now secured to small locomotives that maneuver the vessel by tightening or slackening the lines. It's a nerve-wracking job. Sometimes there is less than 1 foot between the hull and the concrete wall. These mules can each pull 35 tons. It takes 8 to steer the largest vessels. The canal changed global shipping, cutting the trip between the Atlantic and Pacific by 8,000 miles and 3 weeks. It's one of the most famous places on Earth. A transit takes about 10 hours, all of it accomplished using the power of water. In a way, the 10,000 people operating the Panama Canal are really running a gigantic water management company.
There's this absolutely huge park right in the centre of the city, so we've come here today for a bit of a walk. We really are right in the heart of the city here. The park extends to the north for a really long way. We're looking kind of east and southeast here. We came here quite early this morning in the hope of seeing some wildlife. It's so cool that we have. We heard quite a commotion outside our flat this evening, so we came out to have a look at what's going on, and it's this big protest. People are protesting against cuts to benefits for teachers.
Ministra cara dura, lo tuyo es dictadura. Ministra cara dura, lo tuyo es dictadura.
It's part of a series of protests because the government are cutting benefits for many public sector workers. Of course, there's huge inequality here because if you're a wealthy foreigner, you don't pay tax on any income earned overseas. Generally, taxes are pretty low. There's also a lot of corruption in government, embezzlement of public funds and things like that. We've come to the Amador Causeway this morning, which is right next to the entrance to the Panama Canal. We're just going to cycle to the end of this little peninsula. It's not very far, really. This colourful building to our right is the Bio Museum. We actually just popped in there before we picked up the bikes. It's really cool. I'll just show you a couple of the highlights. There's so much really interesting stuff in there, actually. This room has screens all around, including on the floor and the ceiling, giving you a really immersive sense of the nature in Panama. They've also got a couple of these 2-story high aquariums, one for the Pacific side and one for the Atlantic, or Caribbean really, both very different. That was such a wonderful museum, and now we're off to visit another museum along similar lines, the Punta Culebra Nature Centre. This one's involved in breeding rare species of animals and releasing them into the wild, as well as being an education centre. We just parked our bikes and already someone's pointed out a sloth in the tree up here. This site is just on a really small piece of reclaimed land, so it's really surprising to see so much wildlife here. This room houses a lot of highly endangered frogs. There's a particular fungus here that's wiping out a lot of them, so they're protecting them and breeding them and re-releasing them when they can. You can see the breeding in action in this tank. Although, to be fair, there's not a lot of action. Apparently the whole process takes 3 weeks. The male just sits on top of the female's back for the whole of that time. There's also this butterfly house here, as well as a couple of aquariums. This wild raccoon is eating some bread that little girl gave it. We're not really supposed to feed the animals. She's too young to know that. Well, that's it for this nature centre. Both of these museums have been really good today. It's been a thoroughly enjoyable day, and I feel like I've learnt quite a lot too. We've come to the Panama Canal Railway this morning. Thought we'd go for a bit of a train journey today. This is just a tourist service today, following the original tracks that were laid in 1855. They've built a new railroad now. It's used by the commercial traffic. It's a cool train, isn't it?
It's very beautiful, yeah.
Coffee and snacks. We're going to Colon on the Atlantic side and then back again, following the route of the canal. It's 47 miles each way. Most of the route cuts through quite dense jungle. Just past the halfway point at Gamboa, where the Chagres River flows into Gatun Lake. This is the lake they artificially created to avoid having to dig really deep channels for the boat. This part of the route. The railway was built to aid the construction of the canal. That's why it was completed almost 60 years before the canal was. Apparently it was the most expensive railroad per mile to ever have been built, costing $8 million and taking 5 years to complete. We've reached the station in Cologne on the Atlantic side, so we'll just pause here a while and then just go back again. It's about a 3-hour trip in total, but we have been going really pretty slowly. When the railway first opened, it brought a lot of people to California for the gold rush. It also exported a lot of gold and silver, mainly from South America. Almost back in Panama City now. It's been a really nice morning, actually. Very relaxed way to see a bit more of the country. We've spent quite a lot of our time in Panama City just chilling out in our Airbnb, which has just been really nice. Sometimes it's just good to not do touristy things for a little while, and when you do them again you appreciate them all the more. So we're ready to head off again. We're heading up north tomorrow. I'm excited to see a bit more of the country.